Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Dear students, today we are going to study our poem, The Twice, written by Commentary by Prof. I'm your teacher, Sheeba Hussain. Come to the introduction of Commentary Petmore, who is an English poet and critic of Victorian age, born to a literary and educated family. His father was a prominent editor and novelist. Due to his father's encouragement, Petmore published his first poem at a very young age in 1844. Petmore worked at the British Museum from 1846 to 1865 and was associated with pre-Raphaelites. His most celebrated work is The Angels in the House, which published in 1854, which was warmly praised by critic Ruskin and many others, and portrays the family life. Petmore was sincere and highly original poet. He wrote in verse, usually free and greatly loved for the period and in the natural, easy-flowing language. This is the picture of Petmore, born in 1823 and died in 1896. To the biography of Petmore, his full name was Commentary Dinton Petmore. Occupation was critic and poet. Date of birth is 23rd of July 1823, and he born in Essex, England. He died on 26th of November 1896. His most prominent work is his poems, published in 1844, The Angel in the House, in 4 volumes. He was the poet of the Victorian era. He married 3 times with Emily Augusta Andrews. His second wife was Mary Ann Caroline Wiles, and his third wife was Harriet Robson. His parents were Peter George Petmore, and he has the children Coventry, Tennyson, Emily, Bertha, and Gertrude. The celebrated work of Petmore is Principles in Art, published in 1889, Religio Poetiae, published in 1893, Poems, published in 1844, Les Espouses, published in 1856, Faithful Forever, published in 1860, The Angel in the House, a long narrative and lyrical poem, published in 1854, How I Managed My Estate, published in 1886, The Unknown Eros, published in 1877, a volume of papers entitled Principles in Art, published in 1879, and Religio Poetiae, published in 1893. Coming to our poem, The Twice, written by Commentary Petmore, and the language is of course English. It is a symbolical poem, and the theme is religious and family life, and it is the poem of a Victorian era. The Twice is a poem relates the story of a father and son. The father treats his son harshly, but later realizes his mistake and asks God to forgive him for his foolish behavior. Come to the poem The Twice. My little son, who looked from thoughtful eyes and moved and spoke in quite grown-up voice, having my law the 7th time disobeyed, I just struck him and dismissed with hard words and unkissed. His mother, who was patient being dead, then fairly lest his grief should hinder her sleep, I visited his bed, and found him slumbering deep, with darkened eyelids and their eyelashes yet, and his late sobbing wet. And I with moan, kissing away his tears, left other of my own. For on the table drawn beside his bed, he had put within his reach a box of counters and a red veined stone, a piece of glass abraded by the beach, and 6 or 7 shells, a bottle with blue bells, and 2 French copper coins drenched there with careful art, to comfort his sad heart. So when the night I prayed, to God I wept and said, Ah, when at last we lie with a drenched breath, not vexing thee in death, and thou rememberest of what twice we made our joys, how weakly understood thy great command did good, than fatherly not less, than I whom thou hast moulded from the clay. Thou'rt leave thy wrath and say, I will be sorry for their childishness. Let's talk about the little simple toys the boy used to play. The father goes to his son's room. His son is in a deep sleep. Besides the bed, the father finds a box of counters, red veined stone, a piece of glass, 6 or 7 shells, a bottle with blue bells, and 2 French coins. All these toys are arranged in a proper order. Coming to our summary, as I told you, it is a religious poem and kind of family matters the poet has discussed. So the poet tells us that how the father punished his son for disobedience. The child acted and talked just like he's a grown up man. He made noises and disturbed his father. Well, his father asked him to keep quiet, but the son did not obey him. Seventh time, the father punished his son and sent him away without the usual kisses and love he used to give to his son. The child was much grieved. He left his father and went to bed. After some time, the father realized that he had made a mistake, as his son was lonely since his mother has been dead. He feared that the child might not be able to sleep due to his grief. So, out of the grief, he went to his bed and found that the child is asleep. His eyelids are swollen due to weeping. His eyelashes were still wet with the drops of tears. The father became more emotional when he found that his son had very neatly arranged some pieces of glass, a red winged stone, some shells, a bottle of bluebells, and two French copper coins on the table. They were simple and innocent, but very enough toys that were enough to comfort his sad and alone and upset heart. He noticed that the boy had sought consolation in small ordinary objects to comfort his sad heart. It was a touching scene for the father whose wife was dead and there was no one to console the child. He felt sorry for his attitude. The father bent over the child and kissed away the tears from the boy's cheeks, but tears from his own eyes dropped on the son's face due to emotions and sentiments. In this poem, the poet points out that God is always kind and merciful to man, but man often fails to follow the commands of his Creator. He provides man with all the simple joys of life, yet there are some who do not fear God even on their deathbed. God knows that though we had been disobeying his commands and enjoying ourselves with worldly things, he yet he forgives us. The father hopes that as he has forgiven his son, God would pardon him for his childishness and his sins, his wrongdoings. He prayed all night with the feeling that God is merciful and he would forgive him. The Twice is a religious poem in its spirit. Through this simple poem, Coventry Petmore conveys the greatness of God. He uses simple language and vivid images to convey his thought. In the poem Twice, poet has used a simile. Here he compares a father to God. The poet says, "My love for my child is nothing as compared to God's love to me. I beat and punish my child for every small matter, but God loves me so much that he forgives me." The language of the poem is easy to understand. The poem is powerful enough to invoke emotions. The guilt of a father feels after beating his child is expressed in a sensitive manner. And another part of the poem where the poet feels that he is being getting a strong support from the toys in the room. This part is very emotional too because it is very natural. Sometimes when we are emotionally weak, then anything can inspire us. The poet feels that the non living toys are real humans and they are emotionally supporting the poet. So, in the end, we realize that this poem is a symbolic, very simple, in a very ordinary and simple language. Hope you will understand. So, this is it for today. Thank you so much for reading this. I hope that you will benefit from this lecture and you will read it carefully and you will be able to answer all the questions. If you have any questions and queries, kindly let me know. Thank you so much and have a nice day.